Hello there.
Just like Ghostface, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going straight to the jugular with this one. What's going on, guys? It is your boy, Elie Moses, your 22-year-old law and film student here from Sydney, Australia, shooting his shot, baby. And yes, I know some of you are like the mask killer himself and cannot wait and have your teeth seething to hear the spoilers on the new Scream film. I just came out of the theater seeing it, and today I'm going to give you the entire spoiler rundown of the film and the Easter eggs that I picked out in it and explain the ending to you guys. If you guys don't believe me, here's my film ticket for it. I just came out of the theater and saw it. In Australia here, I'm currently in the future, hence being able to see it. And if you guys do enjoy the breakdown, I'm holding a Scream 6 spoiler live stream this weekend as well, so feel free to like, share, and subscribe this video only if you enjoy it. Actually, if you're a Scream fan, make sure you subscribe. I'm gonna do you like that. But yeah, I did really enjoy this film for the non-spoiler part. I think it is probably the second or third best Scream film, and it does basically set a core foundation for the future of the franchise, and that's what I have to look forward to for the future of the Scream franchise. I'm gonna waste no more time, and like Ghostface himself, let's slash this thing and let's have some fun. Let's talk Scream 6 spoilers. Let's go. I hope you have the popcorn for this one, ladies and gentlemen, because this is gonna be a long one. I'm gonna break down the whole movie, spoiler for spoiler, and for what I have from my notes right here. So the film starts with Samara weaving. It opens up with my Aussie girl. I think you know what that means. She's just about to get Drew Barrymored, and you are exactly right. So she's waiting for a date to arrive at a restaurant. He calls her, tells her he's lost. In their conversation, we learn that she's a college film professor and she teaches about slashers. She eventually goes outside to see if she can find her date. She ends up in an alleyway and the phone changes to Ghostface's voice, and he says something along the lines, "You teach film at a school and you still get lured to a dark alleyway, especially teaching slashers?" And I chuckled at that moment because I was exactly thinking the same thing. So Ghostface ends up jumping out, kills her brutally, stabs her multiple times, and takes off his mask to reveal that it's Tony Revolori's character, and his name is Jason. So he takes off the costume and starts walking home. He runs into Tara on his way home. We learn that she's on her way to a Halloween party. He gets home and gets a call from Ghostface himself, but he thinks it's his murder partner, so his other partner, and they plan on killing Tara and Sam to finish off Richie's movie. So Ghostface calls him and they play a little cool game of hot or colder and warmer, and then we learn that Ghostface gets him to open the refrigerator and his partner is cut into pieces, beheaded, limb from limb, everything. And then Ghostface jumps out of nowhere and kills Tony. And a funny line Ghostface says here is Tony's last breath, Jason's last breath with his last words. He says, "What about the movie?" And Ghostface says, "Who gives a fuck about the movie?" Slashes him, and that's when the opening title comes up for Scream 6. And at that point, the smile on my face got wider, and I was like, I cannot wait to continue to watch this film. So Sam comes home from work. She hears her roommate Quinn, Liana Liberato, having sex. Quinn comes out and tells Sam that Tara went to the party. Sam is obviously overprotective in this film and goes to the party to bring her back. Mindy and Chad are introduced at the party along with Ethan, Jack Champion's character, who is Chad's roommate, and Anika, who's also Mindy's girlfriend in this film. Chad saves Tara from going upstairs with a drunk individual, as they are both drunk at the moment, and then Sam tases his balls, actually, which I found pretty funny. They all leave. Tara is pissed, obviously, because she tells Sam that she wants to make her own decisions in life and she wants to move on from what happened a year ago at Woodsboro, and she wants to basically forget about it and go to college and continue on with her life. They all leave and Tara is obviously pissed, and a random girl throws a drink on Sam as she's recording with her group of friends, and this is only because there's a rumor going on or an internet rumor going on that Sam actually masterminded the entire events of Scream 5 and that everything that happened was her plan. She framed Richie and Amber, and the whole storyline in this movie revolves around Richie and that he was framed by Sam. She orchestrated everything. So they go home and we find out that Sam has been secretly having sex with this cute boy across from their apartment in the opposing, I guess, apartment block, which is Danny. He's Josh Segarra's character. We then move to see Sam at her therapist, and she hasn't fully told him what happened in Scream 5. He eventually gets it out of her, and she says that killing Richie felt right. He tells her that she's not equipped to help her and basically fires her as a patient, and she leaves. So Sam and Tara are then together on the street, and then Sam gets a call from Richie, which is the caller ID on the phone says Richie, and it's got his photo there, and Sam informs the audience that she forgot to delete his number off his phone, even though it's been a year, which is, I found kind of weird, but does help the plot get along. So Ghostface ends up popping out of nowhere during this phone call, and he attempts to attack Tara, and they brush him off. Ensue the trailer scene in the store market. This is a great tense scene. They eventually end up escaping, and then the cops arrive and Ghostface goes out the back door. Sam and Tara are in a police station answering questions from Detective Bailey, and we learn he is their roommate Quinn's dad. So the girl that's Sam's roommate, that's her dad. He's the police officer in this film. On their way out, Kirby is revealed actually. She's an FBI agent from Atlanta in town to help. We learn that Sam was a freshman when Kirby was a senior at Woodsboro when those events of Scream 4 happened. When they leave, a bunch of reporters are outside, including Gail. Sam and Tara are pissed that she ended up writing a book about the events of Scream 5, which is a neat little Easter egg to Gail Weathers writing a book about Sidney Prescott's mother's murders back when that happened and the whole events of Cotton Weary. And there was a cute little Easter egg in this scene as well, where Sam goes to punch Gail Weathers and she completely slips it, and she's like, honey, I've done this dance before. And then completely out of nowhere, unexpected, Tara gives her the right hook, which I found really clever. I'm just like, you didn't think to get away from that one, did you? You thought it was a one-off, you know, Sam was just gonna do it. You didn't think about the other individual. This ain't just Sydney. It's not a 1v1. There's two sisters, baby. And I actually really enjoyed that scene. One thing they also do mention in this film, they do name drop Sidney Prescott in this film. And it's a scene where Sam asks Gail about Sydney, and Gail says she wants nothing to do with it, basically. She's taken Mark and the kids and taken them somewhere far away from this scenario. So that's how they deal with the Sidney Prescott situation in this film. You may love it, you may hate it, and it's kind of sad Neve Campbell is not in this film, but it is what it is. And I do think there is a future for her, or there is a future where she does return in Scream 7, hopefully. Then we cut to Sam's therapist who was watching a movie. There is banging on the door, and if you have seen the trailer, this is the scene where Ghostface's mask is revealed through like a sort of, it's sort of like a murky glass window, and obviously Ghostface punches through, hits him multiple times through the door, and he gets stabbed in the nose, which is a brutal kill. Sam's therapist is taken out, and Ghostface takes Sam's file from there. The core four are then hanging out with Ethan plus Anika, and they're hanging outside, I think, on the college campus and or one of the parks in New York, and then Mindy gives her Requel sequel speech. I really liked it and thought it was much better than Scream 5. So basically, the whole point of this film, they talk about the sequel to the Requel and about building a franchise now, and how multiple franchise don't care about their legacy characters anymore. And Mindy points out that Sam and Tara, you are not safe, and she akins it to the likes of Star Wars, for instance. She's like, hell, even Star Wars killed off Luke Skywalker. Nobody's safe in this, and everyone can be a suspect, and everyone can snap. And a few name drops in there as well included Tony Stark and Iron Man as one of the legacy characters that got killed off to end up building a franchise. Not even the main characters that were part of the Requel are safe anymore, and I really enjoyed that speech. And at that point, Mindy actually points out Quinn and Ethan as prime suspects in the case, because they're two friends that came out of nowhere and dormed with Chad. Ethan is dorming with Chad, and Quinn is dorming with Sam. So at that point, Mindy, for a later point in the movie, she was kind of right. So then the core four, as Chad calls them in this film, and I think Chad and Mindy are the real MVPs on this film. They really grew on me, and it solidifies their position for future installments, in my opinion. I really grew to love Chad and Mindy in this film. And Chad calls them the core four, are hanging out at Sam and Tara's apartment. Tara and Chad have a moment and almost kiss, but get interrupted by Quinn. She goes to her room while the rest are hanging out. Danny, who you can see through their apartment, sees Ghostface in Quinn's room with her. He starts trying to get her attention, but obviously she's on the phone and the window is blocking any noise. He calls Sam, but then she declines the call. They hear noises coming from Quinn's room and they think she's having sex again. Danny sends a photo of Quinn getting attacked. They all jump out as if they're going to get to the door, and she gets thrown out dead, like bloodied, throat slit, everything. Ghostface throws Quinn out the door into the core four, and she's bloodied everywhere on the floor. Then a chase scene ensues. Tara and Chad get out the front door. Sam, Mindy, and Anika get trapped inside. Mindy gets her arm sliced, and Anika gets stabbed several times, including a brutal one where she gets stabbed in the stomach, and you see the knife drawn up above. Like, it's completely brutal. They lock themselves in a room, and Danny pulls out a ladder from the opposing apartment and extends it to their apartment. Sam goes first, then Mindy, then Ghostface gets into the room while Anika is on the ladder and starts shaking the ladder, and then obviously she's almost across, and then she falls down the alleyway and bang, hits her face on a large garbage bin. Anika's gone. There goes Mindy's love interest. The sun comes up and the cops are there. Detective Bailey is crying over Quinn because obviously his daughter just passed away and was stabbed by Ghostface brutally, and he gets removed off the case. Ethan arrives out of nowhere and Chad actually goes for him as the prime suspect, but he has a solid alibi saying he was at a class the night before, and he's like, you can ask anyone that was at the class. I was in a theater full of 100 people. So after that scene where Quinn is crying, Gail rocks up and they sort of make up together, and Gail says, you know, her investigative journalism skills come into play. She says that she's found a Ghostface shrine, and she leads everyone to the Ghostface shrine. Ensue the Easter eggs galore and the Scream fans' wet dream in this scene. So what the shrine is basically filled of is basically evidence. It's a full Ghostface museum. It's a Scream and Stab franchise museum. It doesn't have replicas. It has the original. For instance, like, it has glass cabinets for each character in the Scream or Stab franchise. There's a glass cabinet, for instance, with Dewey, with his actual revolver, with his actual bullets. And then you see the scene in the trailer with the shrine with all the Ghostface costumes. It has their knives, everything. It's like full legit. There's not 1 inch of a replica in there. And what the Ghostface is doing in this film, the Ghostface killer is leaving the masks of previous killers at each of the crime scene for each of the victims he kills, because the cops say in this film that the DNA of each of the killers has been found on each scene. For instance, I believe in the scene where the therapist was murdered, they found the DNA of Roman Bridges' mask in that scene. So that's what the Ghostface killer is doing in this film. He's leaving the mask of previous killers at each of the crime scenes in which characters are killed. That's not even the tip of the icebergs in regards to the Easter eggs in this film. For instance, the TV that landed on Stu Marker is in this shrine as well. And it was at this point in the film I started to realize, okay, I'm putting the pieces together. Who has the capabilities to get this sort of evidence, the original evidence from the crime scenes from all the Scream films, and put them in this shrine? You start to put the pieces together and you start to think, okay, I think I have a lock on who the Ghostface killer is, or one of the Ghostface killers. I know Gail says in this scene that it was actually the 2 individuals who were killed at the beginning of the film, the wannabe Ghostfaces, Greg and Jason. She goes, it was their shrine. They purchased the scene off the books. But as we come to find out, it wasn't them. Now, in this scene within the shrine, as they're exploring the shrine, Mindy and Kirby have a great heart-to-heart scene where they discuss horror films and their love for horror films, where they will mention a horror film and say like a one-word answer together at the same time, or be an opposing answer. And I really enjoyed that scene. And in that scene as well, they name-dropped Psycho 2, which I've done a movie reaction to on the channel. And at the same time they name-dropped Psycho 2, they both said underrated at the same time. And I was like, oh, I love that scene between Kirby and Mindy. It was absolutely fantastic. So eventually they decide to use Sam and Tara as bait to try and trace Ghostface's core, and that's what Kirby is going to do. He does a core, and when they trace it, they end up tracing it to Gail's apartment, and ensue the scene from the trailer where Ghostface attacks Gail. So this is a fantastic chase scene between Ghostface and Gail. She gets stabbed, I think, about 3 times in this scene. Sam and Tara get there just on time as Ghostface is about to stab her in the face, and Gail's holding on to dear life, but then Ghostface obviously runs away, and then the paramedics arrive and they say there's a weak pulse on Gail. She previously passed out in front of Sam and Tara, and you thought she might have been dead, but then the paramedics arrive and they say there's a weak pulse. So Gail is alive at this point. But then they are all waiting in the hospital wing, and it is at this point they all decide to make a plan to execute Ghostface and lure a trap within the shrine. So at this point they call Detective Bailey, and he tells them he's obviously in on it because that son of a bitch killed my daughter. And Detective Bailey tells them to take public transport because it is very crowded, and it is at this point where they go to take the train in New York, and it's completely crowded. There's some Halloween event going on. Everyone is dressed in Halloween costumes, and as they go to board the train, they get separated. So Mindy goes with Ethan, and then Chad and the core 4, and I believe Danny, which is Sam's love interest, they go on the first train, and Mindy has to wait for the other with Ethan, and ensue the scene from the trailers with the multiple Ghostface on the train with multiple costumes and Easter eggs from other horror icons. You see Michael Myers, you see Freddy Krueger. I think one of them is the werewolf from Midnight, I believe. And yeah, so this scene is very, very tense because on the train scene with Mindy and Ethan, she is very suspect of him and keeps her distance away from him. And there's great There's a great use of lighting in this scene with the lights flickering and Ghostface looking at Mindy, and then the lights continue to flicker, 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 and Ghostface is approaching slowly and slowly and slowly towards Mindy. And at this point, she has no reception because she was texting Chad at the time to tell her that she's okay, she's with Ethan. There's no reception at this point, and Ghostface is approaching slowly and slowly to Mindy until the jump scare is about to happen and Ghostface isn't there, then pops out of nowhere, stabs Mindy in the stomach, and basically draws the knife away as the train comes to a stop, and Ethan's there and he sees Mindy on the floor, and obviously he gets her to safety off the train onto the platform and calls for help. So before they get to the shrine, Sam tells Danny he can't come because she can't trust him. At the shrine, they kind of separate. Kirby on her own, Sam on her own. Tara and Chad have a cute scene where they end up making out, which this is actually set up previously in the film, and I actually really like them as a couple. Chad really grew on me in this film. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. So while Sam explores, she gets a call from Detective Bailey, and he tells her that he's learned Kirby is unstable and she got fired from the FBI months ago. He's actually lying. Tara and Chad get attacked while they're making out. It's a blur, but at that point, Tara gets actually stabbed in the back as they're making out, and then a whole chase scene ensues, and Tara and Chad run away. And then I don't remember what happens to Kirby at this point. She's away, and then Sam runs into them and says the killer that's Kirby, and as they're running away, before you know it, two Ghostfaces jump out of nowhere and start stabbing Chad as he's trying to fight off the first one. They start stabbing Chad repeatedly in the chest. They don't go for the neck or anything, but they start stabbing him in the chest repeatedly. Then obviously Chad falls, and then Tara and Sam run away. There's actually a great shot in this sequence as well. As the Ghostfaces are stabbing Chad, they both in sync with one another basically take the blood off their knives. So they wind up in the middle of the shrine with a ghost face on either side of them when Kirby comes out of nowhere. She's bloodied and holds a gun at the ghost faces, but Sam and Tara scream that it's Kirby, and Kirby obviously tries to retract that claim and scream it wasn't her, when a third figure arrives in the scene, which is Detective Bailey, and he shoots Kirby and she falls to the ground, and it is revealed that Detective Bailey has one ghost face on either side of him, and it is revealed that there are 3 ghost faces in this film. And I believe this is the first Scream film where there is more than 2 Ghostface killers. There is in fact 3. In fact, you can make a case that there's actually 5 Ghostface killers in this film if you count Jason and Greg at the beginning of the film, who were trying to finish Richie's film on their own. But the main 3 Ghostface killers are Detective Bailey, and then the second one that is revealed is Ethan, his son, and then the other one that is revealed is Quinn, his daughter, who was killed off in the beginning of the film, but obviously she wasn't. It's amazing what a little fake blood can do, and we remember that from Billy of the first film. Obviously, because her father was on the case, he was able to get to the crime scenes first, swap out the bodies, and do everything along those lines. And then what we do find out as well, the connection, the revenge motive of this film is that he is the father of Richie. That Ethan and Quinn and Detective Bailey are Richie's family, brother and sister. And Quinn does mention in the beginning of the film to Tara that it was really hard since her brother died. And there's the connection, obviously, with Sam brutally murdering Richie in Scream 5. There's the connection, there's the revenge motive, and it is revealed that Detective Bailey did build that entire shrine to honor Richie and to basically finish his movie. And we see on the projector screen a couple clips of Dennis Quaid returning as a younger Richie, obviously creating a few stab sequences or stab films or like-for-like scenes from the stab films or from the Woodsboro murders. We do see that, and basically his father built the entire shrine to honor Richie. And I'm guessing as a detective, he was able to gather all the evidence from Woodsboro for all the Scream killings that happened across the films. I'm guessing that as a detective, he had the capabilities to collect all that evidence and be on the cases. I guess he had jurisdiction or along the lines of that, because it is an unbelievable shrine. It is the Scream fans' wet dream, as I said, filled to the brim with Easter eggs. Then a scruffle ensues. Tara and Sam channel their inner Kevin McAllister from Home Alone with a couple bricks as they fight off the Ghostface killers. They end up going upstairs, sort of like an upstairs section. Tara slips and she's hanging on for dear life as Sam is holding on to her, and Ethan is trying to stab Tara. Tara sees the knife in Sam's, I guess, belt, and that is the Billy Loomis knife from the middle shrine, from the middle Ghostface shrine. She drops the knife to Tara as she falls onto Ethan, because at the same time Quinn was approaching Sam from upstairs, slowly drawing the knife across the railing. I mean, she could have ran to her if she wanted to and kill her, but it is what it is. And then Sam sees a gun on the floor, picks it up, bang, pops Quinn in the head. Quinn is done. Now, I can't remember. This scene was obviously the cuts were interchanged. And Tara fights off Ethan and she eventually stabs him and then stabs him through the mouth with the knife and twists it in and says something along the lines, you can die a virgin, because he mentions previously in the film he's a virgin. Tara's a badass as she draws the knife out of his mouth. Blood goes onto her and Jenna Ortega looks like an absolute badass in this scene. And after that badass moment with Jenna Ortega, Sam is upstairs and Detective Bailey comes in with a gun, and Sam is also holding the gun first and she's ready to shoot him. Just as she goes to shoot him, she realizes that she's out of ammo, and in that scene, which I found weird, I found like really lackluster, and this is where I find the third act to be a little bit weaker. Detective Bailey also has a gun, and his one is in fact loaded, because this scene was kind of laughable to me because Sam screams and charges at him, and he's the one with the gun as well. He charges at her and sort of, they run and rugby tackle each other, and the gun fires as they rugby tackle each other. He could have just stood off as she ran and bang, popped Sam, but didn't decide to, which I found weird, and that just took me out of the third act a little bit. But even though they fall off the railing and bang, they fall onto a sort of glass cabinet which is holding one of the pieces of evidence, and then it cuts to black. So then it cuts to Detective Bailey waking up. He's all dazed and dizzy, and this is where Sam starts to play the Ghostface game with him. We find out that she's actually taken one of the Ghostface costumes from the shrine, and it was Billy Loomis's costume. She pops out of nowhere, stabs him multiple times repeatedly, worse than Richie. She gives him the Richie treatment basically, stabs him multiple times, and then ends up stabbing him in the eye. He's done. And then as Sam and Tara are having a heart-to-heart in the end, and you have the Woodsboro music playing from the first Scream, Ethan pops out of nowhere. I don't know how he's still alive, because he had a knife put in his mouth and twisted. He runs, and then Kirby pops out of nowhere, pushes the TV into him, and the TV falls on his head, and Kirby says something along the lines like, I saw that in a scary movie once. I was like, ah, Kirby, you legend. Then, obviously, we have the usual ending of a Scream film with all the paramedics around. We find out that Chad is actually alive. He's wheeled out, and he's holding the 4 as his hand, and he kisses Tara because, you know, the core 4. And I really love that about this film. It establishes a core 4 for future films that I can get behind, that I really love. We find out that Sam was actually holding Billy Loomis's mask in her jacket, pops out to reveal it, and she's really torn between it, but then she drops it, you know, goes to Tara, they heal one another, they walk off into the distance. We see the Ghostface mask on the floor. Boom, ensue credits. After that scene, there is a little post-credits segment, and it is only about a second or two. It involves Mindy from the earlier scene in the film where she talks about requels and sequels. It is a little bit of a fourth wall breaking. Actually, it is a fourth wall breaking scene, and she basically says something along the lines, come on, not every movie has to have a post-credits scene, and then we cut. And that was a little laugh out loud moment. I really enjoyed it. But there you have it, guys. There is my entire spoiler breakdown and recap of the new Scream film, Scream 6. I am hella excited for the future of the franchise, and I do believe a Scream 7 has been greenlit, but I do not know how they top this in terms of the Scream franchise after Scream 5. Like, you have Scream 5, Scream 6. I do not know where they can go from this in terms of, we already had the Ghostface shrine in this film. Like, that is the creme de la creme. You see everything. The evidence has been gathered, and I'm interested to see where they do take the characters and what plans they have and what location we deal with next, because I really enjoyed the NY setting of this film. I really think it was used really well, and I had a great time with Scream 6. It is a Scream fan's wet dream in terms of Easter eggs, brutal kills, fantastic chase sequences, but I did find the killer reveals to be a little weak, and I think it is on the more predictable side in terms of who the killers are in the film. However, I did not pick out that there would be 3 Ghostface killers. I was thinking there easily is 2 doing everything, because I did pick out that it was Detective Bailey earlier on, and I was thinking to myself, obviously he's got an accomplice, but yeah, obviously the motive behind him was a revenge motive, similar to along the lines of actually Scream 2 with Mrs. Loomis. Her son was killed in Scream 1, and the same thing happened here with Detective Bailey. His son was killed in Scream 2022, and it seems like what the Scream movies are doing lately with the requels, I guess, or the reboots, it seems like they're basically tackling each of the Scream films earlier on. So Scream 2022 was sort of like a remake of Scream 1 with the boyfriend being the killer, and then this one again had that sort of parental figure going for revenge in Mrs. Loomis, but this time it was Detective Bailey with his 2 accomplices, and basically he wanted to finish Richie's film. So I hope you guys enjoyed my breakdown of Scream 6, my entire spoilerific breakdown. It's been your boy Elie Moses. Take care. care. God bless. Peace.